that we have. It's called Unleashing the Exponential Growth of Unimagined Real-World Use Cases. Unfortunately, Matt could not be with us today because he has another event. We're running a little over, but we still have a great panel for you today. Please give it up for Mike Zajko, General Partner at Lattice VC, Daniel Andrade, Co-founder and CTO at Hotspotty, Leo Lin, founder of Arkreen, and our moderator, Stephen Lee, Managing Partner at FutureMoneyGroup. Let's give them a hand, guys.
Congratulate everyone who made to us last final panels, and food and drink is ready outside. We really appreciate it for staying for more, like 10 out of 10 minutes for food, supporting us. So okay, this is the last panel. So what about introducing every one of you, yourself, and also maybe let me know what's the biggest problems about your company or your fund, the hardest part right now.
Hello.
Yo.
Hello, this is Liu, the founder of the Arkreen. So Arkreen is the dipping project. We are focused on the renewable energy resources. We try to, using the dipping methodology, to encourage the whole global community to connect those renewable energy resources. And we're starting from the solar panel, the residential solar panel, and want to aggregate those green energy generated data and try to monetize those data to the carbon credit, and also encourage the community to do the more inclusive climate action. And in the current stage, the Arkreen is still in the early stage. We launched the testnet this May, and as the new project, the dipping project, I think the challenge is the hardest working is how to build this the MVP, and the dipping project is a full stack, and you need the front hardware, the software, backend, the front end, the smart contract, APP, the token economy design, the community operation, fundraising. But you only had the very limited resources. So how to manage those kind of resources and try to build the MVP and to put in the front end market to do the testing. And that's the very challenge for the early stage. And we think this part is we call the bootstrap. Even the token incentive can help to in this bootstrap the stage, but it's still the big challenge for the dipping project. So I think today we saw for example, the IoTeX launch those kind of events. It's very useful for the project, the founder to discussing each other, exchange the information, experience. So we learn each other, and we learn from the field. We learn from the those experience, and to improve the project and try to accelerate the bootstrap stage. Yeah. So that's my part.
Thank you, Leo.
Nice. Let's turn it back again. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel. I am the CTO and co-founder of Hotspotty. We started in DP, and actually it's been around 3 years ago. Actually, we're not a token. We don't have a token. We don't have a DP project by itself. But we started deploying helium miners 3 years ago, climbing roofs, all that story. And then we have our own problem that we need to manage our own devices. That's why we created Hotspotty to be like a fleet management tool, which ended up becoming the biggest, one of the biggest projects in the DeepIn. In the DeepIn, we have, I think, over 300,000 users right now. And basically, we started with Helium, and we grow this ecosystem. One thing that we, over the time, like one of the, let's say, the hardest things for us in this sense would be monetization, because with the current market situation, the price going down, the lower the token price, the less the miners are making, the more expensive our service is for them. But I believe even though with this whole market situation, we're still almost breaking even just with the SaaS platform. So with that, I think we believe something that's quite useful. But a term that I use a lot we're trying to squeeze milk from a rock, trying to build a SaaS for fleet management right now. But with that, we saw the growth of Deepin thanks to IoTeX and everybody involved. With one or two, 3 projects in 2020, we've seen around 90 plus projects. They're popping up using the same idea of decentralized physical infrastructure. And with that, we realized that, okay, there's actually a lot of opportunities in the Deepin space. A lot of opportunities that are still coming up, and it's quite hard for you as a deployer, as an investor, as a builder, to pretty much follow all these new projects. Most of them don't even have token yet. So with that, there's a project that we launched actually a couple of days ago. We call it, for now, maybe we change the name, but called Deepin Hub, which is an information aggregator that we're collecting data from all the Deepin ecosystem. We're tracking Twitter growth, Discord growth, Reddit growth, RSS feeds, YouTube videos, transcribe, using a lot of AI technology as well, to be able to build the best ecosystem, to be like the one website everybody can keep open tab if you like Deepin, to follow the track, following the whole ecosystem growth. So right now, that's like our main focus, and we believe that we can really help Deepin grow. Was one of three projects that happened in the past. We're going to be 90 now, maybe thousands in a few years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Zajko. I'm one of the co-founders of Lattice. We're an early stage crypto venture fund. We've been big believers in the Deepin space and using crypto economic incentives in order to drive network adoption or network growth for more real world use cases. The first and most famous one, obviously Helium, which Daniel and team drove a lot of the growth there. But and we always felt when we went out and raised our first fund that there would be other entrepreneurs that came from domain-specific backgrounds, whether it's other wireless use cases, it could be energy, it could be mobility, that other teams would go out and use the same or similar model to Helium and apply it to their own space. And that's definitely happened. So it's super exciting to see. I think for us, the biggest challenge is continuing to find really high-quality entrepreneurs that want to build cool stuff in the space that we think will drive adoption. I think for founders in the space, similar to what Daniel mentioned, it continues to be a challenge to drive usage of these networks and drive monetization that's commensurate with the market value of, let's say, the token that it's live. It's demonstrated that you can use token incentives to get people to install hardware in their home, for instance. The flip side is finding people that want access to, for instance, an IoT network. And I think it will take time, but compared to more crypto native businesses, you have to go to either more traditional enterprises to get them to adopt it, where they might have alternatives in place already, or you have to go to consumers, which similarly might have other alternatives in place beyond a decentralized solution. So it will take, I think, a bit longer than maybe more crypto specific or I don't want to say they're not real world use cases, but I think these are projects that are designed using crypto to solve something that's a bit more tangible to the average person versus most things in crypto, which are very much specific to a crypto audience, and mostly that's what they understand, but your average person is probably not going to understand as much. But that's the big opportunity, is that if you go out and talk to anyone, you can explain this to them. They're like, oh, I get this. This is cool. I can see why this would exist. Whereas you're talking about the latest ZK tech or even NFTs or even Uniswap for that matter. I don't really get why this has to exist in the world. So big opportunity for everyone in the room that's involved in it.
Thank you, Mike. So let's come to the question. So I don't know how many of you have been to Bocola last year, the East DevCon, November last year. So Vitalik has been asking a lot of questions about onboardings, asking about how come next 100 million users on board East? What's the most important infrastructure is needing there? His answer is the wallets. Or maybe other founders will answer about infrastructures. I believe in the same time in Marina Bay centers, their founders been asking the onboarding questions, what's the missing infrastructure? But for now, I want to ask about what do you think this is the most important thing for real world use case in the Web3 world?
Yeah, I can share my opinion how to onboarding the more the use case and also the more the real world user into the Web3 world, and especially for the dipping the project, I think for the initial stage, the bootstrap stage, so the token incentive model is very important because you need this incentive model to encourage the people, to encourage the community to join this early stage. It's not mature. Even the product is not mature. The concept is still need to verify. So that's part you need to have the design to make sure the user or the builder can easily do some try. So we do the in our site in the past 9 months. We also learned some experience. So for the tipping unit, this the miner device should be the consumer centric, the people centric, because we saw the many new dipping projects looking at how to onboarding the user. Some people talking about some commercial, the enterprise customer. So it's still difficult because the token incentives not apply for those kind of customer, and the individual will be more easy to incentive by the token reward. So any scenario, any use case, the people, the individual can control, can install. For example, this hardware can be easily installed by the individual, right? It's easily installed and easily maintained. That could be the good, the scenario for the dipping project. And we believe that those kind of design, or in the beginning, it's very important to accelerate this, the bootstrap stage. So we think the most, the important thing to onboarding the more, the user, especially for the dipping, to have those kind of lightweight, the product, it's important.
Product, right?
Yeah.
Neil?
No, definitely. Like having I think dipping comparing to DeFi, for example, it's a kind of ecosystem that can onboard many more people in a very more tangible way. It's much easier to understand what's a wireless network. It's like a Wi-Fi that you plug in the wall. Then like a DeFi with seed phrases, with a bunch of like technical terms that nobody understands. I think the cost is something that's quite important. Like making it easy for a project. Like if you look in the project perspective, it's much easier to roll up to like hundreds of thousands of devices using the token incentive mechanism instead of having to deploy it from your pocket, right? I mean, we've seen this with Helium, we've seen with other projects. For example, one that I like to mention is like Lattice. Lattice, they're doing kind of like mapping with a smartphone in your car. That's something that you already have in your pocket anyway. So it's super easy, straightforward to get started with that project. And then if you're going to compare, for example, with Google Street View that costs $1 million. So there's a lot of really cool things that are happening. I think removing the cost for a project to deploy, it's a very big, very important mechanism to help with the growth. But one thing that I like to say is like, I believe that deep in projects, the project itself would work very well without a token. But the token is very important for make it real, to make it grow. So the technology exists for all the project without a token, but the tokenomics is extremely important to make it to reach like thousands and hundreds of thousands of devices.
Yeah. So you think that the cost of the hardware and also the tokenomics is very important for the growth?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I think the evolution in this space has gone from black box that pays you a token for plugging into your wall to now more consumer experiences for most of the teams that are building. So Arkreen is an example. It's like, I get a token, but like there's other value that's being driven. So maybe I get solar, or I have some energy distributed energy resource. In Demo, they're building a whole consumer experience in the app that, at the very least, you can even just see like, where is my car? But a bunch of other like vehicle diagnostics, so you can improve the lifespan of the vehicle, or eventually app developers that will be able to build on top of that data. So I think the future for the space is ideally that the consumer product alone can stand by itself, and people are interested in buying it just for that. And then you're pouring fuel or additional kind of marketing power on top of it by these token incentives, which not only like drives network growth, but also contributes to the shared network ownership from all the participants that are contributing to it.
Okay, so you're saying network effect is very important.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so come to the next question. So what is the biggest challenging for scaling for real world use case? Not only dipping, for maybe also for RWA, right? What you think is the biggest challenging for stopping more and more people to accept this? Maybe start from you, Mike.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I think the biggest challenge is that this vertical, more so than just about every other one, has to go up against incumbent businesses that exist to satisfy whatever that need is. So that's not always the case, but let's use Helium as an example. They just launched 5G. It's like, all right, you're going up against AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, still around, I don't know, T-Mobile. So going against those competitors is just, I mean, it's tremendously difficult. And similar, like, we haven't talked as much around the less hardware-oriented DeepIn projects, but things like decentralized compute or decentralized file storage, or sorry, compute file storage as an example. It's like you're going against AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, like those are incumbent platforms, and unless you have a strong desire for a decentralized solution, or the experience is going to be 10x better or cheaper, like you're most likely just going to pick whatever's there. So that's probably what we see as the biggest challenge is like it's a real world use case. So there's probably some Web 2 or traditional entrepreneur that's gone after that space and either built a very large business or is in the process of building a business there.
Thank you. You want to start? Danny?
Yeah, I can do it. For just talking about new projects, right? Like as I was mentioning, there's a lot of projects that would exist without the token, without the DeepIn method. It gets very complicated for looking from those 100 projects that we've been tracking lately. A lot of those founders, they're very strong in one particular stack. Like we were mentioning before, that there's a massive stack of information that you need to know to deploy a DeepIn project today. You can be very good at weather data. You're going to be like, you're the PhD in the weather. You understand everything about, you need the sensors, but you have no idea about tokenomics. You may be against it, or about blockchain, about how to get that data off-chain, on-chain. There's like a much wider stack of information that you need to understand to be able to deploy a DeepIn project compared to a DeFi project or like a real Web 2 project. I think that by providing some sort of like infrastructure that new projects can easily follow can help a lot. There's a lot of people talking about that. I think it's going to be really important for new DeepIn projects to have that up and running, that we can bootstrap much faster new projects, that someone understands just one part of the stack, doesn't need to learn by itself the whole rest of the stack to do it.
Some sort of composability, right?
Yeah, exactly. You basically just like, I wouldn't say plug and play, like, okay, look in the stack, what is your strong suit? Okay, I can do this, but I don't know how to do this. I can just follow the steps to get my product launched, for example.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can add another, the view about this, the challenge for the scaling. I learned from the Helium, the Gaoyuan, because they are the first, the reach the 1 million the mining device in the field. So for those early stage DeepIn project, we are looking at how many user we can onboarding, right? So we just look at the number, so as much as possible. So we try to smooth this onboarding, the process. But if we reach some, milestone, for example, the 10,000 mining device deploy in the field, then the scale from the 10,000 to the 20,000 to the 500,000, then we need to think about the security and also the trust, because the whole, the DeepIn methodologies that depend on the proof of the physical work. So it's very important to make sure the whole community, the 500,000, or even the 1 million people can work together, can do the coordination, because all of those proof of the physical work will be registered on the, the blockchain, and to have the fair and the transparent, the reward split, also the profit sharing, based on the trusted proof of the physical work. So
That is the fundamental, important if the projects are scaling, right? So I think that today, most of the deeping project ignore this, the importance of the trust, the root of trust of the security. So I think because the security should be designed from the beginning. If you already, deploy the 10,000 device in the field, if you want to upgrade the hardware to enhance the security, to add in the secure, the chipset, to add in the TE, to make sure that your private key is more secure, it's quite difficult because the device already deployed the whole, the world. So I think that is the challenge today for all those new deeping project. So I think that we should learn from the Helium or the other, the larger, the deeping project, how to make sure that all those the miner, the deeping, the unit, the hardware can have the more secure, the environment in the original source, and to make sure that all those POPW is trusted, to make sure that we can scale to the millions levels, the miner deploy in the field.
Okay, you raised a very good point, Leo, about security. I don't think a lot of deeping founders right now pay a lot of attention to security, unlike DeFi founders, right? I think security maybe sometimes it's like the DeFi founder focus a lot, or otherwise you get hacked. And DeFi had been compared to like deeping a lot in today's events. A lot of speakers are using DeFi as example. But look at DeFi, it created a lot of new things like stablecoin, right? They don't have a stablecoin before DeFi. And also they build on each other. They have landings, right? They have DAX. So we can say DeFi is full of innovations. But when we look back to deeping sector, sometimes people may say it's lack of innovations. So my last question for everybody is, as a startup in deeping area, how you balance the innovation and the real world user case? Because sometimes you want to do something very innovative, but it's hard to make a new demo, or even there's no use case. So how you balance innovations and user case? Maybe Leo?
I think that we can, the innovation is always, I think I will see that it's growing from the testing, from the failure. So we learn from the failure. So we cannot just do everything just based on the plan, based on the tested use case. That is not the way as the startup, right? We should try the new direction, and it's not tested yet, but we should be quite the quick, right? We should try the different angle, different direction, and the benefit we can get is this direction is wrong. Then we change the direction. So I think it's kind of we can do the balance. So we try the different the angle, try the different innovation, but we should keep the investment. So we just
control the burn rate. Am I right?
Yes. So that's the way we do this kind of the balance.
Daniel?
Yeah, now one thing that I like to say about this is events like this. I just got to say thanks to IoTeX to organizing events like this, because I believe that sharing is caring. Sharing knowledge is a way that highly decrease the risks of a new project coming. Like being part of community. Deepin is so far is a small community, right? We're talking about building Deepin innovation hubs, or if there are some like bigger companies that could invest in some sort of kind of, in what's the word? The small hubs that people can go and talk about it. That's, for example, what we're trying to do with Deepin Hub is like have this space that you have a lot of information from different projects. And if you're going to start a new project, for example, you can just go there and you can have access to a different community, access to investors. And I think just being part of the community and actually talking to other people, other projects, seeing what they learned, what they didn't learn can help you a lot on your way.
Okay, thank you. Let's close it up, Mike.
Yeah, sure. I don't think the teams necessarily have to focus on introducing some unnecessary innovations. The largest things here are business model innovation, so capital formation via some larger network versus one single entity. The idea of using tokens to incentivize supply side growth or potentially demand side. So, my view is like they shouldn't worry as much about that. Like they're solving a business problem. If it works, it works. That's what we're looking for. We don't need to add innovation on top of it. There's already a significant amount of innovation underneath it, whether it's the existing blockchain infrastructure there or just these new business models. But one thing I did want to add to your point is where I think things will get even more interesting is because this space is driving some real-world use case or real-world adoption, it's likely to be where DeFi actually starts to drive something beyond speculative use cases. So most like loans that are taken out in DeFi today are largely to speculate and get leverage. But if you look at traditional finance, a lot of traditional finance is around driving business growth. So how do I get a loan to open a new business and grow and expand? And it's likely that in this space, you'll start to see DeFi be the first composable sector with DePIN in order to help grow and further expand the market using those financial tools and instruments.
Thank you very much. So I think that's every question. That's every question for today. And for me, if you ask me about questions of how to drive real-world use case, my answer is this is my third time joining this summit. The first time is Denver, Hong Kong, and Singapore. I think in the future, as long as we keep researching, keep building, keep holding real-world serious summit, you will come. One day you will come. Like the real-world case will come to Web3. So thank you everyone for the panelists. Thank you everyone for listening. So I'll pass the mic to IoTeX.